Have you ever stopped to think about how sometimes the really interesting economic stories aren't the big headlines? They're often hidden away in these specialized markets.
Exactly. The ones most people never really hear about day to day.
Precisely. And today we're diving deep into one of those, the global itaconic acid market, IA, as it's often called.
Right. It's this organic acid, surprisingly versatile stuff. You find it popping up more and more in bioplastics, super absorbent
Like
polymers.
in diapers and hygiene products?
Yeah, exactly that. And sustainable adhesives, too. So while it might sound a bit niche, tracking its growth actually gives us some, well, pretty surprising clues about bigger industrial shifts happening globally.
So our goal here today, our mission, if you like, is to give you a real shortcut. By the end of this, you'll be genuinely well-informed on this specific market.
Mm.
We're going to unpack the sales revenues from 2021, look at projections for 2025, and then cast our eyes further out, forecasting all the way to 2033.
And we'll break it down, right?
Yeah.
Key regions, key countries.
Absolutely. See where the real action is happening.
Yeah.
Okay, let's unpack this, starting with the big picture, the global outlook. So looking worldwide, the itaconic acid market, it clocked in at just over $89.2 million back in 2021.
Okay.
Fast forward to 2025, the projection is about $104.8 million.
Decent jump.
And then by 2033, the forecast pushes that up to $144.6 million in revenue.
Now, what's really interesting there, beyond the absolute numbers, is the growth rate itself.
Right.
If you look at the compound annual growth rate, the CAGR, from 2021 all the way through to 2033, it's running at 4.106%.
Which sounds pretty steady.
It is.
Right.
And that kind of consistent, steady CAGR for a specific chemical like IA, well, it's not just a flash in the pan. It strongly suggests itaconic acid is becoming, a foundational piece in quite a few industrial applications.
So industries are really adopting it.
Yeah, sectors that are either growing fast themselves or maybe pivoting towards more sustainable materials. We're not just talking about a few new gadgets. This is about industries actually evolving their core processes.
That's a really key point, foundational demand. Okay, so we have this global picture of steady growth. But to really get a feel for the dynamics, we need to zoom in, don't we?
Definitely. The regional breakdown tells a much richer story.
Right. Let's shift from the global view and start breaking this down region by region, country by country. That's where you see the differences in speed and the drivers behind the growth. Let's kick things off in North America. So the IA market there, it was around $20.97 million in 2021.
Okay.
Projected to reach almost $24 million by 2025, and then hit a solid $31.23 million by 2033.
And the CAGR for the region?
The overall regional CAGR for North America comes in at 3.376%. Now, within that, the U.S. is the big player, holding the largest share. It's forecast to reach just under $25 million by 2033, growing at about 3.26% CAGR.
Which is pretty close to the regional average.
It is. But interestingly, Canada shows a slightly higher growth rate, 4.064% CAGR, projected to hit $3.75 million. And Mexico is contributing too, with a CAGR of about 3.55%, heading towards $2.5 million.
It's interesting, isn't it? North America's growth pace, it's a bit under that global average of 4.1% we talked about.
Yeah, it is.
Which, often signals a more mature market. Maybe the really rapid adoption phase is kind of leveling off.
Makes sense.
But that slightly higher CAGR in Canada, that's intriguing. Could it be different industrial uses gaining traction there, or perhaps specific sectors are just a bit younger in their adoption curve compared to the U.S.? It kind of raises the question, are we seeing innovation in new IA applications or just steady established demand?
That's a great question to keep in mind. Okay, let's hop across the Atlantic and look at Europe. What's the story there? So Europe's IA market generated about $18.8 million back in 2021.
Slightly smaller than North America then.
Yes, slightly. And it's projected to grow to roughly $28.8 million by 2033. That gives it a regional CAGR of 3.657%.
So a bit higher than North America, but still below the global average.
Exactly. Now, when you drill down into the countries, Germany really stands out. It leads the pack with a strong CAGR of 4.283% actually, above the global average, heading towards $6.73 million by 2033.
Interesting. Germany's often strong in these specialized chemicals.
Very true. The UK and Spain also show pretty robust growth. Their CAGRs are approaching 4%. But then you look at the other end. Russia is quite noticeable, with the lowest TAGR in Europe, just 2.219%. Forecast to reach only about 1.34 million by 2033.
Wow, that's a significant difference.
It is. And then you have other economies like France, Italy, Sweden, Switzerland. They're all contributing to that overall steady, but perhaps not spectacular, European expansion.
The variation across Europe is quite telling, isn't it? Germany's strength probably reflects its powerful and diverse industrial sector, which seems to be actively adopting components like IA. But Russia's much lower rate. That clearly points to some specific economic challenges or perhaps different industrial priorities that just aren't driving IA demand in the same way. It really highlights how local conditions and industrial policies directly impact even these niche chemical markets.
It absolutely does. Those local factors are crucial. Okay, now, let's talk about the region that's really driving the narrative. Asia Pacific.
Yes, the big one.
This isn't just a major player. It is, by a significant margin, the largest and fastest growing regional market for itaconic acid in the world.
The numbers must be quite different here.
They really are. Back in 2021, Asia Pacific was already at nearly $35.7 million. That's projected to jump to over $42.8 million in 2025, and then a really impressive $61.74 million by 2033.
Wow.
And the regional CGR reflects that, 4.684%, significantly above the global rate.
And within the region, China must be huge.
Unsurprisingly, yes.
Yeah.
China dominates, forecast to hit nearly $17.7 million by 2033, with a strong CGIR of almost 4.9%. Yeah. Japan's also a major contributor. But here's where it gets really interesting. India. India is registering one of the highest growth rates anywhere, a 5.619% CAGR. It's projected to reach over $8.5 million by 2033.
That's remarkable growth.
It is. And you see similar high growth in places like Singapore, over 5.1% CAGR, and the broader Southeast Asia region, which is collectively showing over 5.2% CAGR. These areas are really fueling that regional surge. South Korea, Taiwan, Australia are also showing solid growth above or near the global average, too.
Yeah, the dynamism in Asia-Pacific is undeniable, especially, as you said, in India, Singapore, Southeast Asia. That's clearly what's propelling the global IA market forward.
Right.
They're consistently higher CAGRs compared to the global average and definitely compared to North America and Europe, are just strong indicators of rapid industrial expansion.
So new factories, new processes.
Exactly. It suggests a huge demand in new applications, maybe in their booming manufacturing sectors, construction, perhaps even textiles moving towards greener options. It's almost a textbook case of developing economies rapidly adopting newer materials and processes. Asia-Pacific is, without doubt, the powerhouse for IA's future.
It really paints a clear picture. Okay, let's keep moving geographically. Heading south now, let's look at South America.
Right. How does it compare?
Well, South America's itaconic acid market revenue was about $5.8 million in 2021. It's projected to grow to $9.72 million by 2033.
Okay, smaller base, but what's the growth like?
That translates to a regional HGR of 4.384%, which is actually above the global average.
Oh, interesting. So faster growth than North America or Europe.
Yes. Brazil leads the way in terms of market size, forecast to hit $3.55 million by 2033, with a solid 4.25% CEGR. But Argentina shows really robust growth too, heading towards nearly $1.8 million, with an impressive CEGR of 4.92%.
Almost 5%. That's strong.
It is. And you've got other key contributors like Colombia, Peru, and Chile all showing healthy, consistent expansion as well, mostly around or above 4% CAGR.
This steady, strong growth in South America, particularly led by Brazil and Argentina, really underscores that region's developing industrial base, doesn't it?
It seems to.
The strong KGRs suggest there's increasing activity in sectors that use IA. Could be tied to infrastructure development, maybe an expanding consumer goods market. It paints a picture of a region actively growing its manufacturing capabilities and, increasing its appetite for these specialized chemical inputs like itaconic acid.
That makes a lot of sense. Industrial growth pulling chemical demand along with it. Okay, next up, the Middle East.
Right. What are we seeing there?
The IA market in the Middle East was valued around $4.5 million in 2021. Projections see it reaching nearly $7.5 million by 2033.
And the growth rate?
The CAGR comes in at 4.288%, so again, slightly above the global average.
Yeah.
Saudi Arabia leads the region in size, growing toward $1.74 million by 2033, with a CGR mirroring South America's at 4.38%.
Okay.
But Turkey and the UAE actually show even stronger momentum. Turkey's CAGR is 4.65%, and the UAE is pushing 4.87%. They're heading towards $1.33 million and $1.46 million, respectively, by 2033. Egypt and Qatar are also notable contributors to the region's growth.
What really stands out in the Middle East figures is that consistent, pretty robust growth across multiple economies in this, specific market.
Yeah, it's not just one country.
Exactly. Those strong CAGRs, particularly in places like the UAE and Turkey, they really seem to point towards ongoing efforts to diversify their economies, moving beyond just traditional oil and gas.
A push into manufacturing.
Seems like it. A push towards manufacturing, new materials development that naturally increases demand for specialty chemicals like IA. It really highlights a region investing in a more varied economic future.
Makes sense. Okay, our final regional stop is Africa.
Right. How does Africa fit into this global picture?
Africa recorded about $3.4 million in 2021 revenue. Projections see it reaching $5.64 million by 2033. The regional CAGR there is 3.732%.
So a bit lower than the global average, but still solid growth.
Still solid, yes. Within Africa, South Africa is the largest contributor by quite a margin, forecast to reach nearly $2.2 million by 2033, and interestingly, it has a strong CGR of 4.37% above the regional and global average.
That's noteworthy. South Africa punching above its regional weight there.
It seems so. Nigeria also shows decent growth, heading towards just over $1 million by 2033 with a 3.9% CGR. And the rest of Africa, lumped together, shows steady growth too, though at a slightly lower rate, around 3.1% CKGR.
The growth in Africa, especially in, industrial hubs like South Africa and Nigeria, it does raise an interesting point about how nascent industrialization affects these niche markets.
How so?
Well, their contributions, even if they're smaller in absolute dollar terms compared to, say, Asia, they represent pretty significant percentage increases for their own economies. It suggests that as these economies continue to develop and diversify their manufacturing, their demand for chemicals like itaconic acid, it's going to become increasingly important in the overall global market mix.
Right, a growing piece of the pie.
Exactly. It's part of that longer-term story.
Okay, so we've done a whirlwind tour around the globe. Let's try and stitch this all together.
Right.
What's the big picture takeaway here for you, our listener, if you're curious about these global market and industrial trends?
Well, I think the first thing is that this seemingly niche market, itaconic acid, is showing remarkably steady and crucially widespread growth across basically all major regions.
It's not just one hotspot.
Not at all. Although Asia-Pacific is undeniably the leader, it's leading the charge not just because it's the biggest market now, but also in sheer growth speed.
Especially countries like India, Singapore, Southeast Asia that we highlighted.
Absolutely. Their growth rates are some of the highest globally. It really is the engine driving things forward.
Meanwhile, you've got the more, let's say, mature markets like North America and Europe. They're still expanding.
Definitely still growing.
But just at a slower, albeit still consistent pace. It really feels like a testament to that quiet foundational growth that happens, under the surface of the global economy, often in these areas that don't make the nightly news.
Yeah, if you connect this back to the bigger picture, the fact that you see this consistent yet varied growth for itaconic acid across such diverse regions, it really showcases how interconnected global industrial development is, especially in these specialized chemical markets. It kind of makes you wonder, doesn't it? What other hidden market indicators like this are out there right now, quietly signaling the next shifts in the global economy, or pointing towards future innovations in materials and manufacturing that we haven't even considered yet?